swarm of bees sometimes frightens people, though the bees are usually not aggressive at this stage of their life cycle. Let's have a look at some typical swarms we would encounter as beekeepers, and maybe you as members of the public. This could land anywhere, but normally the hive they have just swarmed from. That's just the first part of their journey towards a new home.
All swarms consist of one queen, many worker bees, who are her daughters, and just a few drones, who are her sons. And as you can see, they can range in size quite considerably from 1,000 bees to more than 30,000. Beekeepers like to take advantage of these swarms and collect them. Sometimes they want more bees in their hives, sometimes they want to sell them on. But often it's because we will get a phone call because it's frightening you, the public. We want you to see it's a natural thing that bees do, and it's a wonderful, spectacular thing to witness.
Bee swarms are not normally dangerous. This is principally because the swarming bees lack of brood, or babies, to defend their interest in finding a new nesting location for their queen. This does not mean that bees from a swarm will not attack if they perceive a threat. Swarm clusters hanging from a branch will move on and find a suitable nesting location in a day or two. Encountering a bee swarm for the first time can be alarming. Bees tend to swarm near their hives, so if a swarm is visible, then a hive is nearby. Swarms are not usually aggressive unless provoked, so it is important to keep a good distance from swarms in order to avoid provoking them.
Swarming is a honeybee's colony's natural means of reproduction. In the process of swarming, a single colony splits into two or more distinct colonies. Swarming is mainly a spring phenomenon. Usually in this part of Scotland it can be from May through to July, but occasional swarms can happen throughout the producing season. In Scotland, the season is short compared to France and those further south. Secondary after swarms or caste swarms may happen. Caste swarms are usually smaller and are accompanied by a virgin queen. Sometimes a beehive will swarm in succession until it is almost totally depleted of workers.
The swarms settle away from their natal hive for as little as an hour to a few days, and will then depart for a new nest site after getting information from scout bees. Scout bees search for suitable cavities in which to construct the swarm's home. Successful scouts will then come back and report the location of suitable nesting sites to other bees in their swarm.
A good nesting site for honeybees must be large enough to accommodate the swarm. It should be well protected from the elements and have a small entrance located at the bottom of the cavity. It must receive a certain amount of warmth from the sun and should not be infested with ants. In addition to these criteria, nest sites with abandoned honeycombs, if the scout bees can find one, are preferred because this allows the bees to better conserve their resources.
The scout bees are the most experienced foragers in the resting swarm cluster. An individual scout returning to the cluster promotes the location she has found. She uses the waggle dance to indicate its direction, distance, and quality to others in the cluster. The more excited she is about her findings, the more excited she dances. If she can convince other scouts to check out the location she found, they take off, check on the proposed site, and choose to promote the site further upon their return. A bit like a democracy.
Several sites may be promoted by different scouts at first. After several hours, and sometimes days, a favorite location gradually emerges from this decision-making process. A decision must be made in a relatively short amount of time, no more than 3 days, and often will be made when around 80% of the scouts have agreed upon a single location.
When the scout bees agree where to nest, the whole clustered swarm takes off and flies to it. A swarm may fly a kilometre or more to the scouted location, with the scouts guiding the rest of the bees by quickly flying overhead in the proper direction. This collective decision-making process is remarkably successful in identifying the most suitable new nest site and keeping the swarm intact. And what do you do when you find a swarm? Remember, keep calm, enjoy what you see, keep your distance, and contact your local beekeeper or your local bee association or even your council. And remember, in all of this, there is a reward. Every beekeeper that comes to collect your swarm should give you a jar of honey as a reward for notifying them of the swarm that you want them to collect.
What you're seeing here is the removal of a prime swarm. That's a full swarm of approximately 30,000 bees from a bait hive into a temporary new hive, only to be taken away to an out apiary more than 3 miles away. Now, wasn't that a wonderful, in fact almost terrifying noise you hear from the bees in a swarm? It's quite incredible when a beekeeper gets up close. This is what he hears. What you see from this swarm is many white, creamy coloured dots. That's the pollen the bees are still collecting as it's hanging from the tree. What I'm trying to do here, excuse the bee walking across there, is cutting the branch that the main swarm is attached to over a temporary hive so I can lift it down onto the ground. Once on the ground, there's that bee again. Once it's on the ground and I'm sure the queen's there, I'm more than happy. What you see here is the branch that the swarm was on. It contains pheromone, queen pheromones, and the bees are still attracted to it. Again, you can see pollen on the bees' legs. And here's this noise again, the wonderful noise of 30,000 bees flying about you, all looking for the queen. Hopefully the queen is in the box and everything is okay. Soon they will smell her and they'll all enter the box. Beekeepers are normally quite happy to collect swarms. It's free bees for them, but they'd rather spend their time more productively. What we see here are beekeepers look inside a hive on a regular basis, especially around swarming time. When I say regular, every 6 to 7 days they need to go in and check for queen cells. It takes about 8 days for a queen cell to be produced. This is why we really have to go in between 6 and 7 days to use a beekeeping term, to knock them back, or unfortunately we kill them. No matter how diligent or observant the beekeeper is, sometimes we miss the queen cell. It's tucked away in the corner of a frame. And then the hive swarms. In conclusion, if you are fortunate enough to see a swarm hanging from the branches of a tree or a bush, or even hanging on a wall, inform the council, the police, or even better, the local Beekeepers Association. They'll gladly come along and pick it up. My association is Newbattle Beekeepers Association. That's based at Newbattle Abbey near Dalkeith. Hope to see you there.